if you have told yourself that you are not good with money? Maybe money makes you feel anxious. You just have always had that narrative that you're not good with money and you feel stressed out when you look at your bank account. You feel this just unease, even if you're making good money and you just feel not that confident. Then this video is for you. Because what I'm going to teach you in this video are just some basic reasons about first why you actually feel that way, and then I'm going to teach you some shifts that you can make immediately to shift how you feel about money. And the most important reason that we're even talking about this is because money is just an indicator for how you actually view and feel about yourself. And we can even take it one step farther. When we look at our money, it's looking at our success. And when we think about just being able to be who we are and being able to be truly authentic and build a business or make money and feel good about what we want and reach that financial freedom, whatever that definition is for you, because we all have different definitions of financial freedom, the one thing that we have to make sure is that we actually get rid of our money blocks. And it's so funny because as a CPA, as somebody who has been very traditional for most of my career about the numbers, about, you just got to work harder, you got to do all these things to make it, I've actually realized that in these last 5 years that yes, that is absolutely true. You have to have strategy, you have to take action. But, and there is a big but here, is that but 95% of your reality is dictated by your subconscious, meaning the experiences that you have about money, the experiences that you have about success. And, if you're showing up, the way that you show up, the way that you decide to do things, the way that you make reasons and reasonings for not doing those things or excuses for not doing those things, that's oftentimes not even here. It's below, right? So this is the conscious mind. We've got the subconscious mind. And when we think about money, and I like to equate it very much related to success, because in a lot of Western cultures, money is equal to success. We know that that is not true. But sometimes if you just think about it growing up in a Western culture, what did you believe was the full thing for success? Did you think it was like having the beautiful car, having, the big 401k? Did you think it was, having great health? What was first the definition of success for you? And then also, what was the definition of success related to money? Like, how did you make those correspondence? So this is a really important thing for you to just start to consider. But I digress, because what we want to talk about are money blocks right now. And so when we think about money blocks, they come from how we had understood money from the ages between 0 and 6. And why 0 and 6? Because when we break down psychology and we start thinking about money a little bit more, 0 to 6 is like where our brain is not necessarily functioning the way that we are. We're like in a theta, we're like in a movement of our brain where we are kind of like in this trance state. So every piece of information that we're getting at that time, we are believing is an absolute truth. And so there's many sayings about like, give me, until the age of 6 and I will like shape that person or shape that man or shape that woman. And I can tell you, like, as a parent, I can see this as a true reality. My daughter is learning everything that I tell her. So from my lens, the way that I see the world and I'm teaching it to her, that's going to become her viewpoint. So she's going to have to do work later on to undo the work that I'm doing on her, but hopefully the work is good. So when we think about your money, when we think about your beliefs about money, a lot of this actually has to come to, what society did you grow up in? What did your parents actually think and do and act and say around money? What were those kind of neural connections that happen for you between 0 and 6? And oftentimes, depending on the age and depending on the parent, those things probably weren't the best. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and I grew up in the time when, you're supposed to be a good girl. You're supposed to be a people pleaser. Like this was actually praised and made successful. Also, my financial situation growing up was not that of a millionaire. In fact, quite the opposite, right? And so at a very young age, what we call a money blueprint started to form. my money blueprint was like, you need to work really hard for money. Money is scarce. There's not a lot of money around. And so that, fortunately or unfortunately, I like to think of everything as fortunate. That actually caused me to work really, really hard to continue to get good grades, to get jobs very early, to learn how to save money, to actually go into a field about money. Because I thought it was safe, because I thought it made the most sense, right? So when we think about this, we can start uncovering, when we can become aware of our money blueprint, we can start becoming aware of some of the instances, some of the circumstances that actually started to lead us to form the beliefs that we had. So this is number two, is our belief system. So our belief system is driven by by our core beliefs. Our core beliefs, as you now know, were formed when we were 0 to 6. Now, of course, we can form core beliefs after the age of 6. That usually happens based upon, doing something, seeing something often and more often, right? But our big core beliefs are here. So the number two thing that you want to do to identify what your money blocks are to first understand, what do you actually believe about money? What are those beliefs that have been ingrained? What did your parents say about money, and what do you believe about money? Now, I have tons of worksheets and workshops about how do you go dive deeper into this, but get the high level here. Like, what is it that you actually right now as your current self believe about money? Do you believe it's scarce? Do you believe it's abundant? Do you believe that you have to work really hard for money? Do you think that, what are your thoughts and beliefs about wealthy people? What are your thoughts and beliefs about women and money? What are, so you can get wild about this, right? So I want you to first kind of understand what your core beliefs are. Do you have a belief that you hate taxes? Right? I think a lot of people do, right? So first you want to understand what your core beliefs are, but that's not going to be as powerful as this next thing that I'm going to teach you. So the next thing is you need to use the 5 whys. Now the 5 whys are really important. 5 whys allow you to have this superficial idea that you actually think is the best idea, right? So I already asked you, give me your core belief about money. So let's just be, and you have to be radically honest with this. Okay, so I believe that, making money is hard. Okay, well, let's go deeper. And so we're going to use the 5 whys to actually ask yourself now that question. Why do you believe that making money is hard? So you sit with yourself for a moment, and then you maybe would come up with, oh, because my dad told me that. And why? Well, because every day that he was working, he'd come home very late, he'd be exhausted, and he would say, making money is hard. And then you would dive in deeper and deeper and deeper. And the reason that we do this is we like to expose, and we like to really kind of like fight that belief, right? So we want to first understand, like, what is the true belief here? And I'm going to give you an example. I was a few weeks ago with a friend and was talking to her about a limiting belief that I thought I had. And she asked me, she goes, well, what actually do you mean by that? And I realized actually what I had said on the first surface level was not actually what I meant. And this happens often. We might be primed, we might be hearing things, money mindset, money blocks, all of these things, and we might just go at a very superficial level. Now, no fault on our own, no fault on our own, but we use the 5 whys to uncover and demystify that. So use the 5 whys. So the next step, actually, after we've discovered our 5 whys, is to now we have an idea about what this true belief is. And for any change to happen, you have to consciously and subconsciously shift that belief. So you have to understand and you have to prove that belief wrong. Now, what happens when you actually prove that belief wrong is like there's something in your brain that's like, whoa, it's like almost this like cognitive dissonance that allows you to be like, okay, so what I actually believed and now what I actually see to be true is very different, right? So what we're doing is we're turning this belief on its head because we know that this belief is limiting you, and now we need to turn it on its head. So an easy way to turn it on its head is to ask first the question, is this belief 100% true? No, most likely you're going to have to say no, because it's like an absolute truth. Like, do you know that there is no other circumstance, no other person where this belief is not true? So if we go to the example of making money is hard, well, okay, come on. How many people have you seen that are making a lot of money, that are doing things that they love, that they're actually telling you that this is easy? there's a lot, especially right now on the internet. Now, of course, we can go down like, is this true or is this not true? But we have to actually have some proof, some evidence that uh, it is true, that making money is not actually hard. And so what you're going to do is you're going to find circumstances about why this belief is actually not true. And you're going to work really hard to do this. So the first one would be, is this absolutely true? Yes or no? Okay, let's say if you go yes, okay, find 3 instances where it's not. So then you would turn around the sentence. You could say, okay, making money is easy. Where can I actually find that this is true? And if you're listening to this and you still don't believe me, come on. We know that this is actually true. We can see for ourselves that there are people that are making money and it's not that hard. Now, of course, hard. Now, what is the definition of hard? Trading tons of time for money, sacrificing your soul for money, all of these things, right? So you can argue like, what does this actual hard thing mean? Of course, you have to put in work. But to sell your soul, to make it hard, no, you can have, there's so many instances where making money is fun, it's pleasurable, and it's easy, right? So it's doing this reframe. So you've identified your core belief about money that's limiting you. You've dug a little bit deeper. Now you've reframed it. So actually, what do you do with this? That reframe is going to be very powerful. You've done the reframe, but now you're still, here just hanging out with the reframe. Okay, what do you do now? Well, there's a lot of things that you can do. And I teach this and go a lot deeper in my workshops and my trainings. But the first thing on a high level, what you're going to want to do is recognize that who would you be now if you actually truly believed this? How would you act? What would you do? How would you change the way you're running your business or showing up in your profession? What would you do? Because this is when we think about identity and identity shifting and in true embodiment of this new belief. Now, this is why I was like, this is the actual work that takes some time. Is okay, I've identified the new belief. How do I truly embody it? And when we think about habits, when we think about transformation, if you do work with, hypnotherapy, if you do work with like bigger transformation that happen on a somatic level to change that core belief that is subconscious, right? So listening to a YouTube video is not going to do that. Maybe listening to like a YouTube rewiring subconscious would do that. But I'm just telling you, like, this is like the change that has to happen is that subconscious change. So if you're not going at that route of working maybe with hypnotherapist, RTT specialist, that type of thing, then what you're going to be doing is actually going to be just working on your own reprogramming of your subconscious. And that would then be embodying this new version of yourself, saying positive affirmations related to this belief so that your subconscious can hear it time and time and time again. Also, doing work related to breath work is massive. This is where I made so many changes with myself, was doing forms of breath work that allowed me to connect deeper to my subconscious and then allow myself to reprogram. So what happens is that our body keeps a lot of information, right? A lot of memory is stored in our body, a lot of trauma is stored in our body, a lot of emotions are stored in our body. And to allow ourselves to just get rid of those emotions that are stagnant and stuck in our body is actually quite freeing. It allows those money blocks, those success blocks to become free. And so breath work, doing somatic practices, doing rage dancing, and also doing certain things like EFT, so emotional freedom technique, which is tapping, are also really great ways that you can truly shift and improve yourself. So my friends, the first thing is you got to change the narrative. You are actually really great with money. You are a money magnet if you want. And whatever that limiting belief is that you believe about money that is truly limiting yourself, that's got to go. Your second work is to get really, really good at identifying these limiting beliefs, because what I've learned is that even though we might have identified one, we usually have multiple. A lot of people call this like the onion, right? So you peel back a layer, you feel good, it's been successful. And then there's another one, and there's another one, and there's another one. But the beauty about this is that each time you uncover that one layer, you're free. You all of a sudden are like, you see things different. You have a different perspective. And this is where personal growth is really amazing and really profound. So that this is another important thing. And then number 3 is just to do the work to embody this wave of life, this wave of money, this wave of success is actually very fun, right? So being able to make these shifts and to understand that this is a process that you're doing and you are riding the wave, you're surfing that wave, you're catching one, maybe you get hit again, you're going to get on another one. This is massive for your own personal growth. So remember, these money blocks that we have, everybody has them. The people that are really moving and talking about them and don't have, and have less of them is exactly what I said. They have less of them, right? So the goal for you right now is to let's just uncover some of these money blocks because it is going to be freeing. So again, if you like this video, if you like this type of content, please give me a thumbs up, leave it in the comments. I want to know how it's helping. I want to know what other questions you have because then I can make some videos about this. All right, until the next time, I'll see you later.